Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. I want to welcome everyone who has joined us for the Friday Gems program around the world. Today we are starting, inshallah. We have a really great program today. Great reciter, Ustad Hassan Faye, and lessons by our sister Dalia Mogahed. It should be a really beautiful program. People are still streaming in to the program today, but we'd love to ask you all. Where you're joining us from. So I see some people commenting right now, entering their comments here. Let us know where you're joining from. Your city, state, country. Type it in the comments, and inshallah we can see where people are tuning in from around the world, inshallah. Maybe we'll have some new countries, new places that are typing this Friday and letting us know where they're joining from, inshallah. Oh, right off the bat, we have Australia, India, San Jose, California, Fairfax in Virginia, Czech Republic, Boston, Washington, D.C., mashallah. New Jersey, people joining from many different places, mashallah. Maryland, Herndon, Virginia. That's great. Colorado, Senegal. So far we've seen multiple continents represented here. I saw Europe, Africa, Asia, North America. Madison, I'm assuming that's Madison, Wisconsin. MashaAllah, that's great. These programs are hosted every Friday by CelebrateMercy. And what is CelebrateMercy? We are a nonprofit that teaches about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through our programs and our campaigns. And we're a 10-year-old nonprofit organization. Since the middle of March, we've been hosting a lot of programming, a lot more online programs, especially due to the coronavirus, when many of us have been stuck at home, not socializing, and we've been doing a lot of programs, especially since the middle of March. Over 150 hours of classes, webinars, sessions about the life and character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not only that, but also sometimes we've had courses and a series of lessons on Surah Yasin, Surat al-Mulk, and you can catch a lot of these programs, a lot of the recordings of them on our YouTube channel. We want to encourage you all to, many of you are watching right now on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you're tuned in to CelebrateMercy. Whenever we post a new video, you can also click on the bell to be informed of when we post a new video, a new live stream. We are going to be posting a lot more videos on a regular basis, at least twice a week, starting in October. So you want to be subscribed so that you see a lot of that content, inshallah. And as you're watching, make sure to also click on the like button on YouTube, because that helps to get this video, today's session, in front of people. As they're browsing on YouTube, they will get to see this video more often. The more people hit that like button, inshallah. We also want to thank those of you who have been donating every Friday to help sustain these weekly Friday Gems programs. Some of you have even joined as monthly donors. Why does that help to become a monthly donor, giving at least $20 a month? That helps us in terms of our budgeting, to project and plan for the future. It sustains our programs, but also as a sustaining member of CelebrateMercy, you get free access to some of our paid programs. You would not have to pay for paid classes if you are a monthly donor, giving at least $20 a month, inshallah. We also, lastly, before we begin, we want to encourage you all to share the Live Now flyer. This is something that we hope all of you can do, even our teachers that are joining us today. We have posted this flyer letting people know that we are live on the air, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever directs someone to do a good deed it is as if they performed that good deed. So this is not just sharing something on social media. It is an act of worship because you are encouraging someone to tune in, to learn, to come closer to the book of Allah, come closer to our creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to come closer and more in love with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So someone may see your message on WhatsApp, your text message, your social media retweet, your share, and they may join us today for these programs, part 1 or part 2 or both, inshallah. And today the hashtag is Friday CM. Friday CM. Many people have been using that on Friday to post on social media. Sometimes they post a screenshot from the webinar, a quote that they heard, one of the speakers share. Sometimes they post pictures of their family watching the program, and we've shared. We always retweet those and share them, and sometimes we share them during the webinar itself. So I'm now going to pass the microphone on so that we can start part 1 of the program. We're going to have a recitation of Surat al-Kahf, followed by brief reflections by our sister Dalia Mogahed on a passage from Surat al-Kahf. And that is part 1 of the program. Part 2 is going to be a lesson by Dalia Mogahed on prophetic leadership principles, prophetic leadership principles, followed by a Q&A session with our audience. So now I'm going to pass it on to my brother Hassan Faye, mashallah, who is a hafiz, an amazing reciter of Quran, teacher of Quran. And inshallah, we encourage you to follow him on social media, where he's always posting more clips of his recitations, some of his dhikr as well. And inshallah, he will be leading us now in the recitation. It's always an honor to have you, Ustad Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Pleasure to be here. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا فلعلك باخع نفسك على آثارهم إن لم يؤمنوا بهذا الحديث أسفا إنا جعلنا ما على الأرض زينة لها لنبلوهم أيهم أحسن عملا وإنا لجاعلون ما عليها صعيدا جرزا أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا فضربنا على آذانهم في الكهف سنين عددا ثم بعثناهم لنعلم أي الحزبين أحصى لما لبثوا أمدا نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا فقالوا ربنا رب السماوات والأرض لن ندعو من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذا شططا هؤلاء قوم اتخذوا من دونه آلهة لولا يأتون عليهم بسلطان بين فمن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا وإذ اعتزلتموهم وما يعبدون إلا الله فأووا إلى الكهف ينشر لكم ربكم من رحمته ويهيئ لكم من أمركم مرفقا وترى الشمس إذا طلعت تزاور عن كهفهم ذات اليمين وإذا غربت تقرضهم ذات الشمال وهم في فجوة منه ذلك من آيات الله من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وتحسبهم أيقاظا وهم رقود ونقلبهم ذات اليمين وذات الشمال وكلبهم باسط ذراعيه بالوصيد لو اطلعت عليهم لوليت منهم فرارا ولملئت منهم رعبا وكذلك بعثناهم ليتساءلوا بينهم قال قائل منهم كم لبثتم قالوا لبثنا يوما أو بعض يوم قالوا ربكم أعلم بما لبثتم فابعثوا أحدكم بورقكم هذه إلى المدينة فلينظر أيها أزكى طعاما فليأتكم برزق منه وليتلطف ولا يشعرن بكم أحدا إنهم إن يظهروا عليكم يرجموكم أو يعيدوكم في ملتهم ولن تفلحوا إذا أبدا وكذلك أعثرنا عليهم ليعلموا أن وعد الله حق وأن الساعة لا ريب فيها إذ يتنازعون بينهم أمرهم فقالوا ابنوا عليهم بنيانا ربهم أعلم بهم قال الذين غلبوا على أمرهم لنتخذن عليهم مسجدا سيقولون ثلاثة رابعهم كلبهم ويقولون خمسة سادسهم كلبهم رجما بالغيب ويقولون سبعة وثامنهم كلبهم قل ربي أعلم بعدتهم ما يعلمهم إلا قليل فلا تمار فيهم إلا مراء ظاهرا ولا تستفت فيهم منهم أحدا ولا تقولن لشيء إني فاعل ذلك غدا إلا أن يشاء الله واذكر ربك إذا نسيت وقل عسى أن يهديني ربي لأقرب من هذا رشدا ولبثوا في كهفهم 300 سنين وازدادوا 9 قل الله أعلم بما لبثوا له غيب السماوات والأرض أبصر به وأسمع ما لهم من دونه من ولي ولا يشرك في حكمه أحدا واتل ما أوحي إليك من كتاب ربك لا مبدل لكلماته ولن تجد من دونه ملتحدا واصبر نفسك مع الذين يدعون ربهم بالغداة والعشي يريدون وجهه ولا تعد عيناك عنهم تريد زينة الحياة الدنيا ولا تطع من أغفلنا قلبه عن ذكرنا واتبع هواه وكان أمره فرطا وقل الحق من ربكم فمن شاء فليؤمن ومن شاء فليكفر إنا أعتدنا للظالمين نارا أحاط بهم سرادقها وإن يستغيثوا يغاثوا بماء كالمهل يشوي الوجوه بئس الشراب وساءت مرتفقا إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات إنا لا نضيع أجر من أحسن عملا أولئك لهم جنات عدن تجري من تحتهم الأنهار يحلون فيها من أساور من ذهب ويلبسون ثيابا خضرا من سندس واستبرق متكئين فيها على الأرائك نعم الثواب وحسنت مرتفقا واضرب لهم مثل الرجلين جعلنا لأحدهما جنتين من أعناب وحففناهما بنخل وجعلنا بينهما زرعا كلتا الجنتين آتت أكلها ولم تظلم منه شيئا وفجرنا خلالهما نهرا وكان له ثمر فقال لصاحبه وهو يحاوره أنا أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا ودخل جنته وهو ظالم لنفسه قال ما أظن أن تبيد هذه أبدا وما أظن الساعة قائمة ولئن رددت إلى ربي لأجدن خيرا منها منقلبا قال له صاحبه وهو يحاوره أكفرت بالذي خلقك من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم سواك رجلا لكن هو الله ربي ولا أشرك بربي أحدا ولولا إذ دخلت جنتك قلت ما شاء الله لا قوة إلا بالله إن ترني أنا أقل منك مالا وولدا فعسى ربي أن يؤتيني خيرا من جنتك ويرسل عليها حسبانا من السماء فتصبح صعيدا زلقا أو يصبح ماؤها غورا فلن تستطيع له طلبا وأحيط بثمره فأصبح يقلب كفيه على ما أنفق فيها وهي خاوية على عروشها ويقول يا ليتني لم أشرك بربي أحدا ولم تكن له فئة ينصرونه من دون الله وما كان منتصرا هنالك الولاية لله الحق هو خير ثوابا وخير عقبا واضرب لهم مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء إن أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض فأصبح هشيما تذروه الرياح وكان الله على كل شيء مقتدرا المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا والباقيات الصالحات خير عند ربك ثوابا وخير أملا ويوم نسير الجبال وترى الأرض بارزة وحشرناهم فلم نغادر منهم أحدا وعرضوا على ربك صفا لقد جئتمونا كما خلقناكم أول مرة بل زعمتم أن لن نجعل لكم موعدا ووضع الكتاب فترى المجرمين مشفقين مما فيه ويقولون يا ويلتنا ما لهذا الكتاب لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها ووجدوا ما عملوا حاضرا ولا يظلم ربك أحدا وإذ قلنا للملائكة اسجدوا لآدم فسجدوا إلا إبليس كان من الجن ففسق عن أمر ربه أفتتخذونه وذريته أولياء من دوني وهم لكم عدو بئس للظالمين بدلا ما أشهدتهم خلق السماوات والأرض ولا خلق أنفسهم وما كنت متخذ المضلين عضدا ويوم يقول نادوا شركائي الذين زعمتم فدعوهم فلم يستجيبوا لهم وجعلنا بينهم موبقا ورأى المجرمون النار فظنوا أنهم مواقعوها ولم يجدوا عنها مصرفا ولقد صرفنا في هذا القرآن للناس من كل مثل وكان الإنسان أكثر شيء جدلا وما منع الناس أن يؤمنوا إذ جاءهم الهدى ويستغفروا ربهم إلا أن تأتيهم سنة الأولين أو يأتيهم العذاب قبلا وما نرسل المرسلين إلا مبشرين ومنذرين ويجادل الذين كفروا بالباطل ليدحضوا به الحق واتخذوا آياتي وما أنذروا هزوا ومن أظلم ممن ذكر بآيات ربه فأعرض عنها ونسي ما قدمت يداه إنا جعلنا على قلوبهم أكنة أن يفقهوا وفي آذانهم وقرا وإن تدعوهم إلى الهدى فلن يهتدوا إذا أبدا وربك الغفور ذو الرحمة لو يؤاخذهم بما كسبوا لعجل لهم العذاب بل لهم موعد لن يجدوا من دونه موئلا وتلك القرى أهلكناهم لما ظلموا وجعلنا لمهلكهم موعدا وإذ قال موسى لفتاه لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبا فلما بلغا مجمع بينهما نسيا حوتهما فاتخذ سبيله في البحر سربا فلما جاوزا قال لفتاه آتنا غداءنا لقد لقينا من سفرنا هذا نصبا قال أرأيت إذ أوينا إلى الصخرة فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان أن أذكره واتخذ سبيله في البحر عجبا قال ذلك ما كنا نبغ فارتدا على آثارهما قصصا فوجدا عبدا من عبادنا آتيناه رحمة من عندنا وعلمناه من لدنا علما قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا قال فإن اتبعتني فلا تسألني عن شيء حتى أحدث لك منه ذكرا فانطلقا حتى إذا ركبا في السفينة خرقها قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها لقد جئت شيئا إمرا قال ألم أقل إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت ولا ترهقني من أمري عسرا فانطلقا حتى إذا لقيا غلاما فقتله قال أقتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس لقد جئت شيئا نكرا قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني قد بلغت من لدني عذرا فانطلقا حتى إذا أتيا أهل قرية استطعما أهلها فأبوا أن يضيفوهما فوجدا فيها جدارا يريد أن ينقض فأقامه قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا أما السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر فأردت أن أعيبها وكان وراءهم ملك يأخذ كل سفينة غصبا وأما الغلام فكان أبواه مؤمنين فخشينا أن يرهقهما طغيانا وكفرا فأردنا أن لهما ربهما خيرا منه زكاة وأقرب رحما. وأما الجدار فكان لغلامين يتيمين في المدينة وكان تحته كنز لهما وكان أبوهما صالحا فأراد ربك أن يبلغا أشدهما ويستخرجا كنزهما رحمة من ربك وما فعلته عن أمري ذلك تأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. ويسألونك عن ذي القرنين قل سأتلو عليكم منه ذكرا. إنا مكنا له في الأرض وآتيناه من كل شيء سببا فأتبع سببا حتى إذا بلغ مغرب الشمس وجدها تغرب في عين حمئة ووجد عندها قوما قلنا يا ذا القرنين إما أن تعذب وإما أن تتخذ فيهم حسنا. قال أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه ثم يرد إلى ربه فيعذبه عذابا نكرا. وأما من آمن وعمل صالحا فله جزاء الحسنى وسنقول له من أمرنا يسرا. ثم أتبع سببا حتى إذا بلغ مطلع الشمس وجدها تطلع على قوم لم نجعل لهم من دونها سترا كذلك وقد أحطنا بما لديه خبرا. ثم أتبع سببا حتى إذا بلغ بين السدين وجد من دونهما قوما لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. قالوا يا ذا القرنين إن يأجوج ومأجوج مفسدون في الأرض فهل نجعل لك خرجا على أن تجعل بيننا وبينهم سدا. قال ما مكني فيه ربي خير فأعينوني بقوة أجعل بينكم وبينهم ردما. آتوني زبر الحديد حتى إذا ساوى بين الصدفين قال انفخوا حتى إذا جعله نارا قال آتوني أفرغ عليه قطرا فما استطاعوا أن يظهروه وما استطاعوا له نقبا. قال هذا رحمة من ربي فإذا جاء وعد ربي جعله دكاء وكان وعد ربي حقا. وتركنا بعضهم يومئذ يموج في بعض ونفخ في الصور فجمعناهم جمعا وعرضنا جهنم يومئذ للكافرين عرضا. الذين كانت أعينهم في غطاء عن ذكري وكانوا لا يستطيعون سمعا. أفحسب الذين كفروا أن يتخذوا عبادي من دوني أولياء إنا أعتدنا جهنم للكافرين نزلا. قل هل ننبئكم بالأخسرين أعمالا الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا أولئك الذين كفروا بآيات ربهم ولقائه فحبطت أعمالهم فلا نقيم لهم يوم القيامة وزنا ذلك جزاؤهم جهنم بما كفروا واتخذوا آياتي ورسلي هزوا إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا خالدين فيها لا يبغون عنها حولا قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فمن كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khair, Ustad Hassan. It's always a great honor to have you with us. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you. And we want to encourage everyone to, inshallah, follow him on social media, and you can get, the clips that he's uploading of other recitations, other clips, other portions of the Quran where he's reciting, and al-Kahf that he does as well. And we've posted the link to his Instagram in the chat, inshallah. And we are about to start part 2 of the program, reflections on Surat al-Kahf, inshallah. Let me go to the next slide. Just a reminder to please let your friends and family know they can still join us. We are live on the air right now, and we've posted this Live Now flyer on Celebrate Mercy's social media, so they can still catch the end of part 1 and then the part 2 of the program, which is going to be the lesson, prophetic leadership principles for our daily lives, and the open Q&A session, inshallah. And I'm going to now introduce today's teacher, Dalia Mogahed. And inshallah, let me pull up her bio real quick here. Dalia Mogahed is the Director of Research at ISPU, the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, where she leads the organization's pioneering research and thought leadership programs on American Muslims. She's also the former Executive Director of the Gallup Center for Muslim Studies, where she led the analysis of surveys of Muslim communities worldwide. With John Esposito, she co-authored the book, Who Speaks for Islam? What a Billion Muslims Really Think. President Barack Obama appointed Dalia Mogahed to the President's Advisory Council on Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships in 2009. She was invited to testify before the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations about U.S. engagement with Muslim communities. And her 2016 TED Talk, which I highly recommend, was named one of the top TED Talks that year. She's a frequent expert commentator in global media outlets and international forums, and is also the CEO of Mogahed Consulting. So we're very honored to have you, Sister Dalia, and the stage is now yours.
Thank you so much, Tariq. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am so honored to be here and to be among the wonderful, knowledgeable speakers that are asked to give the Friday Gems program. I wanted to share some reflections on Surat al-Kahf. First, overall, as the thematic topics that the surah covers, and then focusing in on one specific story and kind of trying to draw out the lessons from that story for our current moment in history. We're taught that Surat al-Kahf is read weekly and said to protect us from the trials of Dajjal, the one, defined as the one who deceives by mixing truth and falsehood. So Surat al-Kahf can be thought of as a guide to navigate the lies of a Dajjali paradigm. So what do I mean by that? A Dajjali paradigm is one that is one-sided, one-eyed, lacks depth perception, doesn't see real, what is real, doesn't see truth as truth, doesn't see what's behind the smoke and mirrors of this world, only sees the glitter and illusion and thinks that this is reality while missing spiritual truths. And Surat al-Kahf is a protection from this type of worldview, from a worldview that is materialistic, that succumbs to worshiping power. So the surah begins by praising Allah for descending the book on his slave, where he has not allowed therein any crookedness. So it's establishing the perfection of the Quran as the unerring guide for believers, as well as a warner and a bringer of glad tidings. And then it sets the framework for the rest of the surah, kind of the umbrella topic, by describing the nature of this world in ayah number 7. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. We have made everything on the earth zina, decoration, adornment for it, to test them who is best in conduct. So there are 3 things that we can draw from this one ayah that really sets the stage for everything else we're going to be hearing. First, that everything on earth is an adornment, a zina, and that this is a test. And there are 3 points here. First, that the zina, the decoration or the adornment, is something that brings beauty. So Allah could have created the world in black and white. He could have denied us the beauty of a sunset or the majesty of mountains. But he tells us that he created all of this beauty as a test, to test our gratitude, to test our ability to reflect on the wonders of his creation as signs taking us back to their maker. The second meaning of this idea of a zina, of zinatul ard, is that a zina can also be an embellishment, to decorate something, to make it seem more beautiful than it actually is, to make something ugly actually seem more beautiful, like, what you would think of as the use of makeup. So to make beautiful something only on the surface, when in the Quran, in Surat Ali Imran, we're told زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ, to beautify something that is actually people's downfall. So the second idea, the second meaning of this word zina is an embellishment, something that makes something ugly seem beautiful. And then third is zina can be not only to beautify something, make something look better than what it is, but to distract, right? So distract us from what is really happening. So like in a magic trick, we are distracted by something shiny over here so that we're looking in a different direction and it makes the illusion work. The dunya is also filled with this type of glitter and delusion. So After we're told about warned and told that the world is filled with this zina so that we are tested, we're also told how temporary it is in ayah number 8. وَإِنَّا لَجَاعِلُونَ مَا عَلَيْهَا صَعِيدًا جُرُزًا. And we shall reduce all that is in it to barren dust. So the words صَعِيدًا جُرُزًا, barren dust, dust that cannot produce fruit, or soil that is barren, soil that cannot make anything productive, providing no use, having no benefit. That the zina of this world that distracts us from spiritual truths will ultimately leave us with nothing but dust. Then the surah goes on to warn and guide us through the major tests in the guise of zina of the dunya. It really gives us the proper glasses, the proper filter with which to see the world, so we're not deceived by this zina and can actually see reality as it is. And it does this through the use of 4 parables, each describing a test of this dunya. And these parables are well known to us. If you've been following this program week after week, you've heard them many times, of course, in this beautiful recitation that we get to enjoy every week. So the parables are threaded together with additional tools we need, additional reminders and concepts that we need to get through this world and to understand these tests. We're reminded of the hereafter. We are reminded of the importance of keeping company with the humble, with the dangers of arrogance, with the dangers of shaitan, and most importantly, the dangers of taking false idols of reliance. So we know these 4 parables well. First, the story of the people of the cave. And this describes the test of youth, where a time of our lives where the zina of the world is perhaps most alluring and most enticing, as well as the test of religious persecution, the test of oppression. The second parable is of the 2 men in the garden. This is the test of wealth and achievements. Will we take credit for these things or assign credit to Allah? The third is the story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and Khidr, the story of the test of knowledge, and what I will be talking a little bit later about, the test of observing or ourselves experiencing events that seem unfair. And then the fourth is the story of Dhul Qarnayn, the test of power. So what is so amazing about these 4 parables, these 4 stories, cover the expanse of the human experience with all the different ways that we are tested, with both hardship and ease. So the story of the people of the cave is the test of being oppressed, while the story of Dhul Qarnayn is the test of being powerful. The story of the 2 men in the garden is the test of having comfort and ease, while the story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and Khidr includes people who are tested with poverty. So now let's focus on the story of Musa alayhi salam and Khidr and draw out some of the amazing lessons in this story. So in Ayah 1860, we are told what means. Musa said to his servant, I will not rest until I reach the place where the 2 seas meet, even if it takes me years. So here we learn that, and in the tafsir, we understand that this place where the 2 seas meet is where Musa alayhi salam was told he would meet this wise man that he wanted to learn from. And so he says that he's going to search for it, for as long as it takes, even if it takes him years untold. So often if we are oriented toward the spiritual realities. We say we desire wisdom and knowledge. We say we want to be shown and have these spiritual truths unveiled to us. We might have a longing for this. And yet they are seldom achieved with ease. They are seldom achieved without going through something difficult. So he finds this place and meets this man that he wants to learn from. And he asks him, may I follow you so that you can teach me some of the right guidance you have been taught? And the word is rushuda. So the idea of rushd is about seeing truth as truth and falsehood as falsehood. And this is what Musa alayhi salam was seeking to learn, was seeking to understand, was seeking to gain from accompanying this man, the servant of Allah. And so seeing things as they truly are and not being deluded or deceived by the zina of the world, seeing reality as what it is and not just looking at the surface appearance. This is what Musa alayhi salam was seeking, what he was trying to learn. And look at the response to this seeking. Look at how Allah chose to give him this rushd. So the man tells him, as we know, that Musa alayhi salam, will not be able to be patient with him. And then what happens after that, as we've heard many times, is a series of what seem to be inexplicable actions, right? So first, the man punctures a boat of people living in poverty who require that boat to make a living. Second, he kills a young man. Third, he rebuilds a wall in a village which denied them hospitality. So in each of these actions, we see either what we might say today as bad things happening to good people, right? Or good things happening to bad people or undeserving people. So in each time something happens like this, Musa alayhi salam asks, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And is repeatedly told that I told you you could not be patient with me. So finally at the end, Musa alayhi salam is told the secret behind each action. And this we read in ayahs 78 through 82. And what is revealed to us and what is revealed to Musa alayhi salam at the time through these ayahs is the meaning of all of these actions. The first one, that the boat that was damaged, the boat belongs to needy people who work the sea, and a tyrant would have taken them if the boat were not damaged. In the second case, the boy was to grow up and be wicked, so he was protecting his parents from that experience and would give them better, and Allah would give them better than this boy. And then the third was there was a treasure under the wall for orphans of a righteous man who would take it when they came of age. And that's why the wall was being rebuilt. And so he told him, this is the meaning of all you could not bear with patience. And really therein is sometimes our greatest test of this world. It's when we observe or ourselves actually even experience what we perceive as tragedy befalling the innocent, or in some cases, triumph granted to the wicked. Why is life so unfair, right? And people, many people, both people of other faiths, but even Muslims, can even lose their faith at this question of why do bad things happen to good people, like the damage to the boat of the needy people in the story, or why do good things happen to the undeserving? Why do I see people who are so evil, so unjust, gaining so much power, right? Like in the case of repairing a wall for those who denied Musa and his companion hospitality. So how does this story, how does this surah help us navigate these difficult questions? How does it help us navigate this test of observing what we do not understand? First, we see, and this is something for us to also reflect on, we see that it is human to see such seemingly unfair turns of events and wonder why, and ask, what is going on? Why is this happening? And the response is really threefold. First, that sometimes what seems like a harm is in fact a protection for what is worse. So calamities can be a protection for what is worse. In the case of damaging a boat, it seems on the surface as something unfair, a calamity and a tragedy befalling people who are already poor, people who are already struggling, and yet why puncture their boat? Well, because it saved them from being taken in by a tyrant who would have undoubtedly enslaved them and made their life far, far worse. So a calamity as a protection. Second, sometimes the wicked getting an apparent benefit undeservingly, like in the case of rebuilding of their wall, is in fact a bigger benefit for the innocent. And in this case, hiding of a buried treasure for orphans of a righteous man. And then finally, the truth of the matter is seldom apparent at the time events occur. And so sometimes the truth of it will be revealed to us at a later time. And we have to have patience at the time of these events and trust that we will understand the greater wisdom behind them later on, and trust that there is greater wisdom even if we never find out what that is. And then the surah reminds us again and again that complete and perfect justice will be achieved in the infinite hereafter, in a time where the circumstances will last forever. And I think it's such an important message for us to hear, especially now. We need this for our times of confusion, of never-ending news, of injustice and suffering. It's a message of finding meaning in grief and wisdom in grief. It's the wisdom that we seek. It's the truths that we are after. This is where we find them, by digging for the wisdom and digging for the meaning in what seems difficult to understand. It also means maintaining hope and fighting off despair, even when it feels that all is bleak and overwhelming. So it means continuing to work for justice as we are commanded, as we must do to obey our Lord. But and in that command and in that work, not giving up, even when we feel powerless, even when we feel that we are up against unsurmountable odds and unsurmountable challenges. Because we know, with the knowledge that victory and triumph is from Allah, and not an outcome of our efforts. And it's by realizing this, it's by knowing where true victory comes from, that we keep working. I mean, some people get it backwards. They think that when you know that the result of your effort is not what brings about victory, that you should give up. It's quite the opposite. It's by knowing that it isn't just up to you, that you can keep hope alive, that you can fight off despair, because you are not relying on the means or the product of your own feeble effort. And this beautiful balance of human agency and reliance, working for justice now while waiting for its perfect manifestation in the hereafter, is really summed up so perfectly in the final ayah of the surah. And I'll just read, just share the translation here. Say, I am only a human being like you, to whom it has been revealed that your God is one. Anyone who fears to meet his Lord should do good deeds and give no one a share in the worship due to his Lord. Jazakumullah khairan.
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dalia, for the beautiful reflections on Surat al-Kahf. And we hope that you all benefited a lot from those very relevant lessons, inshallah. And we will have a Q&A session after the short talk she's about to give. But before then, I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements before we transition to part 2 of the program, which is the short lesson by Dalia Mogahed on prophetic leadership principles, inshallah. So one thing to note is that during that session that she's about to give, you can post your questions in the comments for the Q&A session that will follow it. And if you'd like your question to remain anonymous, you can also send us an email to info@celebratemercy.com. That's info@celebratemercy.com if you'd like your question to remain anonymous. Another reminder is that you can still invite your friends to join us. This flyer, this Live Now flyer, has been posted on Celebrate Mercy's social media. So send a WhatsApp message or post it on your own social media and encourage friends to join. Another thing I wanted to announce, and this is something new, is that we are now hosting a fundraiser specifically for the upcoming month of Rabiul Awwal, which is the month in which the Prophet ﷺ was born, but also the month in which the Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina, and many other great things happened in the seerah in that blessed month of Rabiul Awwal. And this year, especially during the coronavirus, especially when we have all this political unrest and uncertainty, and there's just troubling things happening. We have it's hurricane season. We have so many things happening right now that are so disheartening. We feel like it's even more important when mid-October comes around to have a Rabiul Awwal that really reconnects us even more to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So when you visit the link to see what this fund is all about, we actually are partnering with LaunchGood this year on a series of webinars and a series of contests that really celebrate the life, the legacy, the character of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to have different themes on every day during what we're going to call Rasul Week sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and each day will have a theme, like a day where we focus on projects that help orphans, a day where we're looking at themes within the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, helping orphans, empowering women, social justice, sacred knowledge, universal mercy, helping people that are not Muslim. We have campaigns like building community, building masajid, right? So there are different themes we're going to be focusing on with our webinars and with our contests. And what we want your help with, and you can read all about this on this page, is you can help us to have a really sizable prize pool so that we encourage even more competitiveness between the different campaigns, between the different contests that we're going to help. So we can make Rabiul Awwal really, really big with your help, inshallah, to have really great prizes for the people that will be participating and really great webinars that we're planning, inshallah, starting in mid-October, inshallah. So this is, and by the way, this is not just to help fund a really special Rabiul Awwal this year, but part of your donation will also go towards an endowment fund, a waqf, that will help make Rabi al-Awwal a special month, inshallah, for many decades to come. So you're not only, as we say with endowments, you're not just giving someone an apple or a basket of apples. You're actually planting an apple tree, and your donation will go a long way even after our lives come to an end in this world, inshallah. So we want to encourage you all to check that out and help contribute to this fund that will benefit us this year, but many years to come, inshallah. I'm now going to skip ahead in my slides here to reintroduce Sister Dalia Mogahed for the lesson portion of this, inshallah, which is going to be on prophetic leadership principles. Let me pull up that screen here. Dalia Mogahed is the Director of Research at ISPU, the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, where she leads the organization's pioneering research and thought leadership programs on American Muslims. She's also the former Executive Director of the Gallup Center for Muslim Studies. With Dr. John Esposito, she co-authored the book, Who Speaks for Islam? What a Billion Muslims Really Think. President Obama appointed Dalia to the President's Advisory Council on Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships in 2009. She was invited to testify before the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations about U.S. engagement with Muslim communities. Her 2016 TED Talk was named one of the top TED Talks that year. She's a frequent commentator in global media outlets and international forums, and is also the CEO of Mogahed Consulting. So inshallah, Sister Dalia, the stage is now yours. Her talk will be for about 20 minutes, followed by a 20-minute Q&A session, inshallah. Sister Dalia, your mic is muted. Sorry, you weren't aware, so you may have to start over. Sorry. There we go.
Thank you. Sorry. Yep. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I wanted to share with you today qualities of prophetic leadership. Now, some of us may not consider ourselves leaders. This isn't just for someone who heads a country or an organization. We are all leaders in one way or another. We could be leaders in our household. We could be leaders among a small group of friends. It just means a person who influences others. And in some ways, we are all in charge and leading in some capacity within our lives. So I wanted to choose 5 prophetic qualities that I think are relevant and important to implement in our lives and to think about in our lives, especially in this current moment. So the first quality of a leader, and this is a very important prophetic quality, is to approach leadership with caution. And here's what I mean. When you look at how the Prophet ﷺ was called on to start making dawah, he was told, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, and then Ya ayyuhal muddathir, both meaning in different, slightly different nuanced ways, but both addressing someone who is wrapped up or covered, right? Oh, you who is wrapped up, oh, you who is covered. It is addressing someone who is cautious and concerned about the weight and responsibility of leadership. This is not someone who was rushing head, all out, trying to be a leader without really thinking through and being cognizant of the responsibility and the weight of it. And this is really how we have to approach leadership. Leadership of any kind is something we must go to after a great deal of reflection. And in these same surahs, the Prophet ﷺ first is told to spend time in night prayers, that this is how we ready ourselves for a role in leadership, is to do the inner work, the homework of the soul, to make ourselves ready for the challenges ahead, because any kind of leadership role will come with it incredible difficulties, and usually not from your enemies, but from your friends, from people you're actually trying to lead or support or serve. People have to be ready for a role which is largely thankless if you are actually sincere. So you must do you must build that spiritual foundation and dig that spiritual well that you will need to be going back to and drinking from throughout the experience. So approaching leadership with caution is the first prophetic quality that I want to discuss. The second is that when you look at the life of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, one of the most salient qualities of his leadership is that he addressed the powerful with fearless dignity and the powerless with equal humanity. So to look at those that appear to have more power than you as your equals, to not become too differential, to not become afraid of them, to see them in their accurate light, which is as an equal human being to you. And that in fact, their power is largely an illusion compared to Allah and his power. And he is ultimately the one who decides what happens. And so he would approach the most powerful with this sense of dignity and fearlessness. At the same time, those with no power, those who had no way of, on the surface helping him or supporting him, would be treated with equal humanity. This idea of seeing Allah in everything that happens, one of the beautiful outcomes of that approach, that paradigm of seeing the world, is that the powerful don't scare you and you never look down on the powerless. And so the second leadership quality is this idea of seeing human equality as the reality and not treating the most powerful and the most powerless any differently. The third is about compassion, to be compassionate. Now, we know that the Prophet ﷺ is described in the Quran as a rahmah to all the worlds. And this defining quality of the Prophet ﷺ is one that we must emulate. If this is the man that we are taking as our example, then how do we make our leadership style defined by rahmah? Well, some ways that this manifested, that he was a rahmah to all the world, some ways that this was shown to us in his example, is that he relinquished personal vendettas for the sake of the bigger cause. when he returned to Mecca with an army of 10,000 men, after he had been driven out and chased and hunted down, and where a bounty of 100 camels was put on his head, exiled from his home, after his followers had been hurt and starved and tortured, and in some cases killed, after his own wife had died. Many historians, many scholars of the Surat say that she died as a direct result of the boycott. After they had done all of this to him and then fought him after he left, and he comes back to these people with all the power, with the victor, right? They surrendered without a fight because the force he had assembled was overwhelming. It would be expected of someone else that he would seek vengeance. It would be understandable that after all they had done to him and his followers, that he would seek to punish them as they had treated him and his followers so poorly. And yet he did the opposite. So to relinquish these personal vendettas for the bigger cause. The other way that I am so inspired by, in the way that the Prophet ﷺ manifested compassion and rahmah, is that he avoided making accusations against people without evidence. If you think about the munafiqun, now the Meccan enemies were clear enemies and open enemies, and this is how he treated them. He dealt with them with forgiveness. But the other, sometimes worse, is the people who pretend to be your friends, who pretend to be on your side, but are in fact treacherous and plotting against you. The munafiqun of Medina. And he knew who they were, and he had revelation to that name them. And yet he never pointed to anyone and said, you're a munafiq, and I'm going to punish you. And he did this to set a precedent so that no one ever in the future could say, well, I just feel like this person's a munafiq, I have no evidence, and I'm going to, punish them, execute them, or whatever. The idea of not making accusations, even though he had knowledge, without concrete evidence, is one of the most amazing evidence, in my opinion, of his prophethood. That he was, he held a standard of justice that is really beyond comprehension. So to be compassionate also means to, even with people that you suspect and you might even be, sure that they're plotting or their heart is different from what they're saying, to not accuse them, to not make accusations without concrete evidence. The fourth leadership quality in the Prophet ﷺ that I want to share is
Your mic is muted again. I'm not sure why. just a few seconds ago it started. Let's see. Can't hear you just yet.
Okay, not sure what happened. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Okay, great. So the fourth leadership quality I wanted to share is to be an anti-racist. Now, this is different from simply being not racist or assuming or considering yourself, quote, colorblind. Because the Prophet ﷺ was not only not racist, but he was anti-racist, meaning he did things that actually corrected a status quo
that was unequal. He wasn't simply not participating in it or not agreeing with it, but he was doing active things to correct it. So some very simple examples that we're all familiar with, but may not have really thought about in this way. The story of Sayyidina Bilal, who was asked, radiallahu anhu, who was asked to stand on top of the Kaaba during the victory, right, in the opening of Kaaba, the opening of Mecca, and declare the adhan. And a lot of times this story is simply, told as, well, like there was really no significance in him standing on the Kaaba. There was really no significance in him having been a former Black enslaved person, that he just had a nice voice, and so that was it. Well, there was likely a lot more to it. I mean, the adhan could be declared from anywhere, but the idea of standing on the Kaaba, asking him to stand on the Kaaba so that all those who used to look down on him would now look up to him, and giving him the opportunity to call the faithful to prayer. This was a deliberate action to rewire the way that people had been primed and conditioned and socialized to think. Another example was to appoint Osama bin Zaid to lead the army. Now, this is a young man. He was the son of Zaid, who people would sometimes call the Prophet's son. He was not, of course, his son. He was someone that he had fostered within his household and a former slave. Now, you might not know, but Ayman was Zayd's mother. Ayman is, first of all, one of the wet nurses of the Prophet, ﷺ, a very special woman. She was also of African descent. So Zayd and her were married, and Osama was her son. And so this is not only the son of a former slave, but also the son of a woman who was a free woman and of African descent. And he was assigned at the age of 17 to lead the army, ordering the nobility of Quraysh, telling them what to do, including, the Sahaba that we, whose names we all know, Sayyidina Umar and Sayyidina Abu Bakr, etc. Assigning this person to head the army was many things, but it was also an act of anti-racism, so that people's mindset, what people believed was normal, could be retooled. And then the last thing that I want to mention is number 5, the 5 qualities of prophetic leadership, is to choose the akhirah every time. The Prophet ﷺ was asked at the end of his life, he was given a choice between living on earth forever and as a leader, or meeting his Lord. And he chose his Lord, as we know. Now, of course, none of us are given this kind of a choice, but we do have the choice every single day of choosing worldly power or the akhirah, of doing what is going to help us in the hereafter. And we have to, especially in a role of leadership, we have to always choose what will benefit us in the hereafter. And I thank you for your attention. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ustadha, for the beautiful talk. I hope you all were taking notes on those 5 leadership qualities, prophetic leadership qualities. I think they can all be relevant to us. One question that we've gotten, and by the way, we do have a Q&A session now, inshallah, for about 20 minutes. If you have questions on this topic or maybe another topic, you can post in the comments, or you can email us at info@celebratemercy.com. One question we got from Sister Nazia, I'm looking at my other screen here where I have some of the questions listed. She says, I think that oftentimes we may feel unqualified for leadership, which can sometimes stem from a feeling of inadequacy or low self-esteem. How would you advise reconciling that? Jazakumullah khair.
So Jazakallah khairan. I completely understand that. And when I say to approach leadership with reluctance, or I'm sorry, with caution, it also means not to allow negative thinking to take over. So we might feel inadequate as leaders or to take on a leadership role. I think we should take a step back and think about, what does leadership actually mean, or what should it mean? It really is, I mean, you know, we know that we are taught that a leader is a people's servant, right? So a people's leader is their servant. The leadership is about serving. And so the question is, do you feel that you're qualified to serve? Do you feel qualified to contribute something? And if the answer is yes, and your intentions sincerely are to serve, then focus on that, and on the desire to use the gifts that Allah gave you to serve Him and to serve His creation. And that, I think, will give you the needed confidence to move forward. And so when I talk about confidence, it's not about believing in yourself, as strange as that might sound. Confidence really comes from understanding that it's not about you at all. It's about a bigger cause. It's about something more important than you, that you are simply playing a small role in. And so I think if you change the way you're thinking about it from leader to servant, and then asking, how can I contribute, and how can I use the gifts that Allah has given me to serve Him, then it can give you a different kind of mindset as you move forward.
Jazakumullah khair. I am going to, kind of sum up a lot of questions that we get almost every single week, because I know you're a parent, and we get a lot of parenting questions. So in terms of, and especially related to teens, right? So you are the parent of a teenager, and two teenagers now, mashallah. And one question we get a lot is like, if a child wasn't maybe raised with a strong religious foundation, many parents are seeing their teens drifting away from the deen, considering even leaving the deen. What is your advice to parents of teenagers who are very concerned that they're going in the wrong direction, how to bring them back, how to somehow, bring them back into knowing Allah, loving Allah, knowing the Prophet, loving the Prophet. There's a lot of parents struggling with their teens now. What would be your advice to them?
Well, first of all, I can't tell you how much this is, one of the hardest tests that you can ever encounter. So the first thing I want to share is that it is a test when your child is not moving in the direction of righteousness, when they're struggling with their faith, especially, or with a bad habit. It's one of the hardest tests that you really can encounter. The second thing I want to share before I give you advice on what to do is, don't blame yourself. And I don't know the reality of everything that's going on, but I just want to explain that, there are prophets who had wayward children, and there are prophets whose parents were unbelievers. So we have to be very careful not assigning blame to parents when their children are struggling. It is not your fault. And this is a test from Allah. So keep that in mind. Our children are not extensions of ourselves. They are independent human beings with human agency. And sometimes they will make decisions that we would not want. The third thing I want to encourage you to do is to make abundant dua for your child. Wake up and make night prayers as often as you can, fast as often as you can, give sadaqah, offer udhiyah, all these things for the sake of your children's guidance, and make abundant dua, because ultimately it was going to be the result of divine intervention, of Allah saving your child. And really anything I say from, after this in terms of things you can do are really very minor and very inconsequential compared to dua for your child, because that is really ultimately what will make a change. So aside from all of that, the things that I encourage you to do first is that your home needs to be sorry to use the term safe space. People are allergic to that term, but it actually does need to be a safe space. It needs to be a place where your child can feel that they can be their full selves and still be loved. Because human beings have certain primal, fundamental needs, and they will go searching to meet those needs wherever they can. And one of those needs is belonging. That is a fundamental, primal human need. If that sense of belonging is not something that they can acquire in their home, they will go and find it somewhere else. And they will do whatever they have to find a place of belonging, including, shedding parts of their identity that don't fit in. So as much as possible, cultivate an environment of belonging in your home before anything else, so that they feel that they belong there, that they are accepted there, that they are loved unconditionally. That's number one. Two, the second thing that human beings need is purpose. We all need purpose. And so the more that we can present and discuss our faith from the perspective of purpose versus from simply the perspective of a long list of rules, the more that we are more likely to have our children gravitate toward that faith, because they are seeking purpose. Unfortunately, they will find it wherever they can. And if the way that we teach our faith is not purpose-driven, is not about meaning and truth, but about just rules, then that purpose will be, they will seek that purpose somewhere else. And then the third thing that I would encourage you to do is discuss the questions that your child has with them in an open manner, and then seek information that can help address those questions. Now, all of these things, you may say, I've already done them and nothing works. I've met many people who've said that, and I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that you've done every single thing you can. And so I go back to point number one, which is, this is a test. Righteous children do not mean you're better than someone else whose children are struggling. Those kids with struggling kids, those people with struggling children might be better parents than someone with righteous children. This is really a test. And in fact, it's one of the lessons of Surat al-Kahf, is not to take credit for bounties that Allah has given you. This is a blessing from Allah. And so to go back to this idea of, after you've done everything you can to cultivate an environment of love and acceptance and meaning in your home, then in addition to that, you must kneel down, prostrate yourself, and pray and cry and make the most sincere dua you can for your child. And that might be this test that you're going through might be your path, might be your door to closeness to Allah. But never give up on your child. Never give up on your child, no matter what happens. Never stop loving them. Never cast them out. Never, unless they're actual dangers to you. I mean, some kids are. Some people, their children become so troubled that they're physically violent. Except that's the only exception I would have. But other than that, you know, people will tell you, just throw them out. Just do this. There's all this crazy ideas and out there in the world about tough love. I have never seen that work. I think it's about continuing to love them and pray for them and wait for them to come back to the path, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. We have just time for a couple more questions. One is more of a general question. What are the specific considerations with regards to balancing leadership and gender roles that we should also be mindful of?
Okay. Any more detail on that question, Tariq, that I can just to make sure I understand what's actually being asked?
I guess you know, I think there is no more detail. I'm just trying to also figure that out.
Well, I'll have to interpret it. So balancing leadership and gender roles, and what I assume that means is that, you know, I guess it's a question of maybe women in leadership. So I guess this question is, I'll first, you know, start this way. Leadership generally, for both men and women, should not sacrifice your family life. So your family, whether you're a man or woman, is your first priority, especially if you have, you know, if you have children. That is what we will be asked about before anything else. And so neglecting, and I actually see, you know, men doing this far more than women, but neglecting their family, literally being absent 95% of the time, that's something you shouldn't do. You need to balance your role as a member of your family before serving the greater community. Your own family comes first. So that's one. The second thing is we know from our history the leaders we had as women leaders in Islamic history and Sahabiyat. So this is, I don't want to get into this like as a topic, but you know, women in leadership is part of our tradition. This is not something we're borrowing or innovating. And then third, whatever kind of leader you are, whether you're a man or a woman, the kind of leadership that we have to set forth in the world is one where it's not about seeking power. It's not about seeking fame, but it's truly about service. And when that's the case, we will have space for all kinds of leaders who will lead in a lot of different ways. And barring 1/2 of our population from serving in that way is really a detriment to the community before anything else.
Jazakumullah khair. We have another, I guess, an unrelated question. Someone was mentioning that they really appreciated your recent segment on MSNBC, and they were asking in terms of those in the media who are, you know, supportive of Muslims. In your opinion, do we as Muslims need to do a better job of recognizing or thanking those who show support towards Muslims in the media, in your opinion?
I mean, if the question is, should we support those who are supportive of us? The answer is, of course, we should. And we should be just as supportive of those who are fair and accurate in the way they portray Muslims and the way that they give Muslims a voice, as we should, critical of those who don't. And while in the same way we should hold people accountable, we should also thank them and be supportive when they do the right thing. And this is, this is part of our faith. The other thing I just want to say, regarding correcting people generally, is, I went on that segment knowing that it was going to be a very delicate balance. And I may have gotten that balance wrong, but what I meant to do was to take the advice given to Musa alayhi salam when he was told to go address Fir'aun. Okay, Fir'aun has transgressed all bounds, far worse than anybody in the media, right? He declared himself God. He enslaved Bani Israel. Like, there is nothing worse than Fir'aun in the world, and yet Musa alayhi salam, who was also far better than any of us, was told to speak to him gently. And so that was what I was thinking about, is that we must correct people with gentleness, because that is how we are commanded to behave, even with transgressors like Fir'aun in the Quran. And so I think we have to balance that with being firm and resolute and honest in our critique.
Jazakumullah khair. I have one more question here, and it is, what should a Muslim do when they discover that a person, or even an imam in the community, like someone in a leadership position, is harming the youth in some way? Even they may be working closely with young people and harming them. Because you said, and how do you reconcile that with what you said about not accusing someone without evidence or things like that? There are, unfortunately, these things coming up, people in leadership positions abusing that leadership. So how do we approach that? It has happened that things like the above have been brought to the board and that did not research the claims. Do we stay silent, or how do we respond if youth are at risk? Well,
Definitely the answer isn't staying silent when youth are at risk. And when I say without evidence, I am not, that is not what I'm talking about. First of all, if there are claims against someone, especially in when it comes to abuse and youth, that claim, you have a sacred duty to investigate that claim. That doesn't mean investigating doesn't mean that you're doing something without evidence. It means you're seeking evidence and you're taking it seriously. So if that happens, we all have a sacred duty to speak up and to call into account the person who is being accused. But letting something just continue to happen or continue to go uninvestigated is a sin. We can't not take claims seriously and do the due diligence that we must to find out if harm is being done. So when I said don't make accusations without evidence, it's exactly what it means. You shouldn't make accusations without evidence, but that's very different from don't investigate a claim being made against someone, especially when it involves harm to young people.
Jazakumullah khair. Well, thank you so much, Dalia. I think that's all that we have time for, inshallah. And some people were, maybe you can do this, if you can just reiterate the 5 principles that you shared earlier, because some people were saying, can you just repeat them back to back? what those 5 principles are again. And I hope those who asked that question, we had a few people, can write this down, inshallah. We are recording this, so you can go back and also watch the talk, inshallah. Do you mind repeating those, Dalia?
Sure. 1 is approach leadership with caution. 2 is address the powerful and the powerless equally. 3rd is be compassionate. 4th is be an anti-racist. And 5th is choose the akhirah every time.
Jazakumullah khair. And we're very honored to have you. You've joined multiple programs with us in the past, and this was really excellent. I saw someone said this was their favorite one so far, the Friday program. So Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for joining us. And we want to encourage you all to stay connected with Sister Dalia, inshallah, on social media. That is the Twitter handle you can see right there on the screen, but also with her work at ISPU, the great research that she's done. She is the director of research at ISPU, especially with an upcoming election. The data and the research on the Muslim community is even more important right now to share and amplify their work. So thank you, Sister Dalia.
Thank you so much, Tariq, for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Alhamdulillah, it's always a pleasure to have you. I have a few closing announcements, inshallah, before we close. One is that just make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube. Many of you all are watching on YouTube, and we have more programs coming up, and you'll not want to miss notifications of when we post those videos. Also, thanks to all those who have been supporting these Friday programs week after week with your donations. They help sustain these programs, whether it's a large or a small donation. They help us. And sometimes we've had families who have sponsored Friday Gems programs. And during the Friday Gems programs, we announce that everyone can, we encourage everyone to make dua for those families, to pray for those families. If you are interested in sponsoring most of the costs or even some of the costs of a weekly Friday Gems program, and having the blessing of doing that, and also the blessing of everyone praying for your family multiple times, like this example where we made a slide for a family that was a recent sponsor. Visit CelebrateMercy.com/sponsor to learn more, or you can email us at info@CelebrateMercy.com. Another announcement is that there are only now 2 spots left that are reserved for Celebrate Mercy viewers who want to join the Fawakih Institute Arabic course that is starting in October. That's starting next month. So this is really your last opportunity to join. It is a program that, even Ustad Dalia, you can see from her testimonial here, really benefited from tremendously. You can go on this site, fawakih.org/cmercy, to read more testimonials of people that have taken this class. It's a 15-month Arabic course, Quranic Arabic course, that will really increase your comprehension of the Quran. In the mail, you get a beautiful box of the books that you'll be using over the course of those 15 months, inshallah. So we want to encourage you all to at least learn more, and you can do so at fawakih.org/cmercy. There are only 2 spots left that are reserved specifically for Celebrate Mercy. This is the only way you can get into the class, because apart from these 2 spots, they do actually have a waiting list. But these spots have been reserved for Celebrate Mercy viewers. So you may want to at least learn more and take advantage. The classes, the teachers are excellent. I personally have taken these classes. They are very, very good. I would highly recommend it, inshallah. Another thing we wanted to mention is that we have a few things in our online store that are new and now in stock, and we also have some bundles of, for example, the hardback book about the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, a photographic journey book through the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. This book normally sells for about $80. But you can now save $20 if you buy it along with the green hardback Shama'il book, which is a book of over 400 ahadith 400 hadiths on the personality and the beauty of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are other bundles. You can also get the kids version of the Shama'il book as a bundle with the Hijrah book. We also have these really nice face masks that are washable, reusable, and very high quality. In fact, there is even a spot where you can put a filter inside of the mask. These masks, the benefit in them are that, you know, they have the Celebrate Mercy logo on them, but these are very highly rated, highly reviewed, high quality masks. So if you're interested in this, you can visit our online store, and you can even buy the filters that go inside of them if you'd like as a bundle as well. I mentioned the Shama'il book earlier. Just a quick announcement that we do have the leather-bound version of the Shama'il book that we're now selling, in addition to the green hardback version as well. In a second, I'll explain what the Shama'il book is actually all about. And what I mentioned earlier, if you missed it, is that we have a new fundraiser going on, specifically if you would like to contribute to making Rabiul Awwal, coming up in mid-October, a very, very special month, because we want to really go big this year with Rabiul Awwal. We're partnering with Launch Good on an initiative. For 7 days, we want to have a series of webinars and contests in Rabiul Awwal with really major prizes. Having the bigger prizes, inshallah, will enable us to have even more competitive contests where people will be setting up their own Launch Good pages to raise funds for their own projects that are in line and inspired by the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. On one day, there will be projects helping orphans. On another day, there will be projects helping to build masjids and community centers. On one day, there will be a day where you are helping projects that are empowering women. On one day, there will be projects and contests on projects that are helping heal racial divides and projects that are related to social justice issues. There will be another day where there are projects that are specifically helping the environment and animals. And there will also be projects that are helping people that are not Muslim. We call that the Universal Mercy Day, right? So this is going to be a really amazing week in Rabiul Awwal, but we need your help to make it special. And this also will help contribute towards an endowment fund that guarantees that your donation will help provide these prizes and help these programs continue in Rabiul Awwal every year for decades and decades to come. So we want you guys to read all about that on this page and support this, inshallah. And I highly recommend that you do this, because this is a beautiful way to celebrate the life and the character and the legacy of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as Rabiul Awwal comes in mid-October, inshallah. I talked a little bit about the Shama'il book. What is the Shama'il book? It is a book of 415 hadiths on the beauty and the character of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Things like, what did he look like? How did he walk? And how did he talk? And what type of clothes did he wear? How did he sleep? And how did he smile? And what was his sense of humor like? How did he interact with his family? How did he interact as a husband? How did he interact with people, just walking down the road in Medina? This book gives you an intimate look at what it was like to meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in person. So we want to, inshallah, encourage you all to check this book out. It's probably the best English translation out there, and it has nearly 1,000 footnotes of commentary on those 415 hadiths. And the book itself, published by Imam Ghazali Institute, is really a work of art. So check it out. We have a leather-bound version. We have a hardback version. There's also a kids version of the Shama'il that kind of summarizes the hadith of the Shama'il for kids. So we want to highly encourage you all to check that out. And here's a coupon you can use to get a 5% discount. So any of the stuff I talked about related to the store, if you use this coupon Friday5, you will get an extra 5% off, inshallah. Lastly, what I want to mention is that when you shop on Amazon, you could be helping Celebrate Mercy through Amazon Smile. What does this mean? What do I mean by that? What I mean is that instead of shopping on Amazon.com, you could be shopping on smile.amazon.com, which is the same thing, except that every time you make a purchase, you're helping a charity. And when you visit smile.amazon.com, they will ask you, what charity do you want to support with your online purchases? Select Celebrate Mercy, and every time you shop from now on Amazon, make sure you visit smile.amazon.com instead of amazon.com. Bookmark that on your web browser. You can also do this through the Amazon app if you shop with the app for Amazon on your phone. So inshallah, if hundreds of people start using this feature, then it can really help Celebrate Mercy out a lot. And a lot of people already doing this, so that your online shopping can become like an act of worship, inshallah. Every time you buy something, like, you want to buy some food, or you want to buy a vacuum cleaner or whatever, you're helping Celebrate Mercy by using smile.amazon.com. So we want to encourage you all to do that, inshallah. We want to thank you all for joining us again. Make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube, and please support us so that we can continue these weekly Friday Gems program. Visit celebratemercy.com/donate to make an online donation. We look forward to having you, inshallah, next Friday. And as I said, we have a lot of exciting things planned for Rabiul Awwal. And with your help, we can make Rabiul Awwal even bigger, inshallah, with prizes, with contests, with webinars. We do need your help, inshallah, to make this Rabiul Awwal during the time of the coronavirus pandemic, and during this time of a lot of political unrest and hurricanes and so many difficult tribulations. We can make Rabiul Awwal a refreshing, spiritually rejuvenating month for us of reconnecting to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So visit launchgood.com/cmfund, learn about this and help support this effort, inshallah. Take care. Thank you all for joining, and Assalamu alaikum.